Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Community Governance and Electoral Issues Committee. Now, our the first thing we need to touch on is apologies for absence. I'm aware of one, which is Diana Lagova, who was unfortunately not able to provide a substitute. We also, I believe, don't have present Councillor Pawlowski. Do you want to do attendance or?
That's fine. All others, for those online, we've got Councillor Robert Madison, present chair of the committee, Councillor Batstone, Councillor Thompson, Councillor James, Officer Wise, Stephen Corrigan, Democratic Services Manager, Susan Baker is the Electoral Services leader, and we're joined remotely by Jordan Kennedy, who is one of the Electoral Services officers.
Okay. Minutes of previous meeting, which are included in the report for this evening's meeting. I trust everybody's had a chance to review the minutes. Does anybody have any comments, or would anybody like to propose that we accept those minutes as an accurate record?
I wasn't present at that meeting.
Yeah.
So I also wasn't present at that meeting, so I don't feel comfortable proposing it, but it all looks reasonable to me.
Okay.
Just reasonable.
But it all looks perfect. Sorry, it looks perfect, and I did watch the meeting back, so anyway. So.
Councillor Batstone.
Yes, I'm trying to think what it was about. Oh yes, yes, I was present. Yes, so I'll propose that we accept those.
Right. Well, in that case, I will second the proposal. We can accept the minutes. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? I can't see any. There are, to my knowledge, no items of urgent business, nor do I have any announcements. We also do not have any public participation or registered speakers this evening. That brings us on to the substantial item for this evening's meeting, which is item number 6 in the agenda. Starting page 7 of the report, running to page 57, we've sent several appendixes. Just to begin our discussion, if I could please invite our officer to give a brief summary of the content of the report, I suppose with particular attention to changes that are being made to polling places.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this report, which sets out proposals for changes to polling districts and polling places, concludes the statutory review local authorities must then take every 5 years, with this particular review having to be concluded by the end of January 2025. As set out in both the report and the acting returning officer's comments, the election team has proactively reviewed polling arrangements in the period between the last statutory review, with both permanent changes agreed in consultation with committee members and temporary changes made, some of which are recommending permanent change in this report. In terms of the proposed changes in Milton Heights, Wolston, Burnham and Radley, these make permanent or propose to make permanent arrangements that have been in place in recent elections on a temporary basis. No change is proposed in Shellingford or Byfield and Tumley due to the lack of any alternative or convenient venues within a polling place. Officers are proposing 2 polling places in Botley and North Hinksey to provide convenient voting locations for electors either side of the A34, one of which is the Building House in Seacourt Hall and Botley Baptist Church, and the other being Botley Women's Institute Hall. To address a growing population in Farringdon, the committee has recommended to create additional polling districts and polling places, providing for 3 polling places to address the issues identified at recent elections and set out in the report. Two changes are proposed in Abingdon to address the fact that the current designated polling places are no longer available to hire. Both the alternatives have been used as polling places previously and considered suitable. And finally, to Wantage, where officers propose an additional polling place to reduce the number of electors voting at the Beacon and provide a more convenient location and to reduce the risk of cross-contamination of ballot papers. As set out in the report, officers will continue to monitor the suitability of polling places and propose changes proactively where necessary in light of the views provided by electors and polling station staff. And there's one update to the report. Unfortunately, the consultation response from the local ward member, Councillor Sarah James, who's on the committee, in the report proposing Milton Heights was omitted from the report. I'll leave Councillor James to provide her views during the debate. Finally, Chair, we have Susan and Jordan with us this evening, and they'll be happy to respond to any specific issues that committee members may have.
Thank you very much, and thank you as well for the clarification about the email sent in by Councillor James. It's good to know that that's not been missed. I'll make a few brief comments of my own before we jump into the committee discussion. As is remarked in the report, the Vale is the subject at the moment of a review by the Local Government Boundary Commission, as everybody in this room will be very well aware. That is a process to change the boundaries of wards, names of wards in the district, but is a separate process to the matter for discussion tonight, which is a review of polling places to fulfil the requirement to review those places at least once every 5 years. So although related and with some crossover in considerations, it is a separate matter that we're discussing this evening. I did want to jump in first of all with one or two questions of my own just to get us going, and then we'll open up to the rest of the committee. My own ward is the Fitzharris ward in Abingdon. I note in the report, and as you've just mentioned in your remarks to the committee, that the polling place at Bridges Close, known as Stonewater, is not going to be available going forward for use as a polling place. And as a result, the place is going to be moved out of the ward into the Coleycott ward at the community centre on Preston Road. My ward colleague, Councillor Delaharpe, has mentioned in his feedback that he considers the Carousel Centre a little bit more local. I would say that my instinct is it is actually better to keep the two locations separate, as in have the one location, Preston Road, and then separately have the Carousel Centre for Coleycott, rather than have them together, as is suggested in the report. But just to follow up a little bit on Councillor Delaharpe's remarks, my instincts being it's better to have them separate, as to eliminate or reduce the possibility of mix-ups as regards ballots. Secondly, to do with issues of parking and queuing and other sorts of congestion that might occur with people descending on one location. That was my brief commentary as regards my ward. I did want to ask or encourage our officer team, though, to continue checking or inquiring with the Stonewater location at appropriate intervals, just because it is a very convenient location for people living in the ward. It's highly central. to that area of housing, the Tyler Farm housing estate, is very, very convenient for anybody living in that area to quickly walk to in a matter of minutes to cast their vote. So it is a shame that location won't be available anymore, but it would be a shame as well if at the council that location was forgotten about in years to come. I would ask and encourage our team to not forget about that location and to, without pestering the proprietors, continue inquiring in years to come.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. We also had some concerns about the accessibility at Stonewater, and we have looked everywhere else on that side of the Drayton Road, have been unable to find anywhere else. So if other locations other people know about, then we'd be happy to investigate them, but we can certainly keep inquiring.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of any other locations really. It's pretty much just housing area, and it is a shame that people have to cross Drayton Road as well to get to the Preston Road location. But having said that, it is pretty local. It's still pretty local. Okay, I wanted to jump in there just with a couple of comments about my own ward area, but I'll now open this up to the rest of the committee. If anybody had anything on their mind that they want to put forward for discussion or consideration, please feel very welcome to do so.
So I'd just like to comment that my email that got missed from the report, it was in favour of what is proposed here, which is to redesignate the polling place to the Bowls Club, because it's currently in the primary school, and the school has to close when there are elections on, which no one is entirely happy with. So I very much welcome that and support the proposal here. I did want to ask a question as well about the sort of risk of cross-contamination of holding different ballots in the same building, in particular around the beacon, because I noticed that some of the feedback we got about the proposal of moving one of those polling places to the Methodist Church was that is actually a less convenient building. The parking and the access is less good. How risky is it to have sort of two ballot boxes in the same location? How much confusion is it likely to cause? Because I think we do it in other places where we don't have
We do. I think you'd be surprised what lets some voters go to climb over barricades and put things in the wrong ballot boxes. So anything we can do to reduce that just is far better for everybody. We did visit the church, and we considered there was parking outside, which looked quite adequate to us, although we have taken on board those comments.
In respect of cross-contamination, not within Wantage, but in another town not too far away from here, we did have issues where at elections there was a different number of candidates being elected, and unfortunately the polling station staff put the wrong notices up. So we did have some only a few that didn't let the result, but voting wrongly.
Right.
So we try as far as possible to separate elections.
Could I just come in on one issue? Because in fact we were mixing three polling areas at the beacon, weren't we? SSB1, SSB2 and SSC1. So I think that made the beacon quite even more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're still proposing that two go to
two
and the third one
still
go.
being beacon, yes. And I did look at the comments on parking, and to be fair, it isn't a very long, a great distance to walk to the Methodist Church from the Beacon car park. And I know parking at the Methodist Church can be a little more difficult, but it is quite close to the town centre, so I don't think it really causes any major issues. And looking at the comments, although people did say it was more difficult, I don't think it's sufficiently more difficult that we should risk the contamination. And I think it was quite confusing having 3 polling stations at the beacon. So, despite the comments from Monty, I think it's a good idea to have the Methodist Hall as a polling station.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I think I'd agree with that remark, Councillor Blackstone.
Cool. Yeah, I've got two questions. I mean, generally, I think this is all great. Actually, and I've got no big problems with anything in this report. I think just small one. It's probably for my own clarification. So, looking at Botley and North Hinksey, on this is a potential change to TBC. So, I just want to get clarification on when we think that TBC will be done, because I know the Council Hallett talks about how the Louis Memorial Pavilion would be an ideal location when it's rebuilt, for example. So, I was just wondering if we had a timeline on when that change TBC might be confirmed. And if I've missed it in the report, I do apologise, but it says the moment potential change TBC, Oxford Football Rugby Club, Botley Women's Institute Hall and or Seacourt Hall for XBA. So if I missed it in the report, I apologise, but
did we have any information on when Louis Memorial?
No.
it's also much like Louis Memorial, though. It's more just, I think, with all the other changes, unless I've missed them, it's, oh no, a couple of them do say potential TBC. But I just wanted to be clear about, so which one's it going to be? Is it going to be the Oxford Rugby Football Club, Botley Women's Institute, or Seacourt Hall?
I think what you're looking at there is a summary of what we sent out at the time. So subsequently, the proposal now is that we use.
In that case, I apologise for my misreading, and that makes perfect sense. And I think, so just in terms of the Louis Memorial Pavilion, and again, we have no information about when it's going to be constructed, but I assume that any changes in this report are coming in for the next round of elections in 2025. But is this an annual review or is this done every 4 years or so? How often does this review take place on polling places?
This is what we've got before you, the statutory review we have to do every 5 years.
Yes.
But we, as a team, the elections team, have the constant review, and so there's delegations, so we can make permanent changes in consultation with the committee, which has been done. The attorney officer can make temporary changes for a particular election, so we wouldn't wait 5 years to make any changes. If something came up and it was a better location, then we would bring it to this committee.
And apologies, I see that I was reading the wrong bits, and it does make it very clear that it's going to be. So I do apologise. That was my misreading of the document, trying to read it all in one go. So no, that's fine. And then I guess the only other thing is, just in terms of any of the newly designed polling places, I mean, it didn't seem to me from the report that there were considerable issues of accessibility and traffic. Though those were some of the comments we received. I just wanted to ask if officers had any concerns about any of the new polling places in terms of their accessibility.
No, officers from throughout the team have visited every place that we proposed, and we wouldn't have put them as a proposal if we had any particular concerns, or if we did, we would have put, however, it's not ideal type of thing. But we have visited all of them, and in our opinion, they will be suitable in terms of accessibility.
Okay, cool. I'm happy. And apologies for my misreading of the first question. So
I should clarify as well, in Botley, although it's Seacourt Hall, it's the building, but seeking a committee to designate, and there's 2 locations within that hall, that building, Seacourt Hall, and Baptist Church, which we could use, so that's provides that flexibility.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
If there's nobody else coming in, I do have a question about the Corn Exchange in Farringdon. It's noted top of page 52. I was just curious about the number of electors. It's noted here that more than or less than 7,100 electors were in the polling district. I was just which I take is a lot. I was just curious about what sort of numbers officers to aim at as a guideline. I'm imagining something like 2,000 to 3,000, ideally per polling place.
The Commission have a recommended figure, which is something like 2,500. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
So is it very unusual to have 6,000 to 7,000 people at one place? Would that be regarded as exceptional, or just at the very high end? Or
what we would normally do that's the polling district as a whole, because that fits in with the parish, etc., and the boundaries, and we would then subdivide that into what we normally do is subdivide that into 3 polling stations within that polling place, and we would just divide the register usually alphabetically, and everybody go to the relevant polling station within that same location. What we're proposing to do is to geographically divide Farringdon into 3 so that people would go to the nearest one. So it's the same process as we've been doing. We have been dividing it into 3, but sending people to a more relevant location.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I had a look at the map in the report, and I'm not local to Farringdon, but it did seem pretty sensible to me. Was there anybody else who wants to come in with anything? Well, I have to say that I am broadly happy with the proposals put forward in the report, and specifically I'm happy about the suggestions made for Colwicon and Fitzharris, accepting that Stonewater is not an option. That being the case, and if there is no further input from the committee, I suppose that leaves us to consider whether or not we want to, as recommended, accept this report and delegate authority to enact the changes in preparation for elections next year.
Can I propose that we do just that, accept the officer's recommendation?
You certainly can, Councillor Backstone. Would anybody like to second that?
I'm happy to second that.
Councillor James, thank you. Well, as we've got a proposer and a seconder, I suppose we ought to just have a quick show of hands for support for the motion. Unanimous. Okay. Well, that really is all the business we need to attend to. As a quick closing remark, I would just like to thank our officer team, those in attendance in the room and online, and of course the rest of the team as well, for what I think is very diligent work in preparing this report for us this evening, and indeed in monitoring the quality of the polling places around the district over the last 5 years, which, as noted in the report, has been done pretty proactively within this last 5-year period running up to this compulsory review. That's my remark there for officers, and a brief thank you. And with that, I think we're in a position to end the meeting.
Finish the recording, Bertie.